Thank you, Professor Rabe. As you've understood, my name is Derek Scally. I'm the Berlin correspondent of the Irish Times. I moved to Berlin 20 years ago, and I can tell you now, nobody does a good controversial discussion like the Germans. So I hope we're going to have one of those here today. Just a brief organizational point. You've probably realized I'm talking in English, but the rest of the program will be in English. But there is translations if anyone hasn't noticed that yet and needs a headset. And if anyone wants to make a contribution later in English or in German, both languages are perfectly welcome here today. As a journalist, Professor Rabe asked me to say, what does it mean to me to be here? I'm one of those people many scientists hate because I come in quickly, I want to know fast, and I disappear again. And Professor Rabe spoke about comets. A comet, even when it rises, falls and disappears. If Albert Einstein was here today, he would say, yes, it has changed the world, though, even after it's disappeared. It has changed the energy, but it's also changed the particles in the air. And what I struggled last year was to try and understand it last year and early this year. How has the discussion culture in Germany changed as a result of this debate? This went viral. For scientists, it's sort of the best of times and the worst of times when journalists come calling. And I, as an outsider, I want to listen and learn about an issue that really affects all of us. I'm a Berliner, I'm a cyclist, I'm not a motorist. But for those of you outside of Berlin, just very briefly to put it in context, I think it's important to understand, particularly in Berlin, air has always played an important role here. This is the unofficial anthem of Berlin is Berliner Luft, the Berlin air. It was written by composer Paul Linke. He wrote a song about it. It says, "Das ist die Berliner Luft mit ihrem holden Duft." That is the Berlin air with its lovely fragrance. Some of us may have doubted that in recent months, particularly in the media discussion, but there are 3 verses, endless choruses, I will spare you. But these days there are 2 kinds of Berliner Luft. The first, any of your international visitors will discover the first kind in the airport as they're leaving Germany. It's a peppermint liqueur called Berliner Luft. It's disgusting. It's so full of sugar, it will rot your teeth. I don't recommend it. The second type of Berliner Luft is the air we are breathing today. And Paul Linke would probably say the Berliner Luft is not what it used to be. The Berlin air has been better in the past. In Berlin, in Munich, and Frankfurt, as we know, old cars are being excluded from the city, new bans are being discussed through the courts, and your expertise has never been more important. It's the best of times and it's the worst of times. What we're here to do today is to discuss measuring ultrafine particles in city air and the consequences on public health, to listen to science, to listen to history from leading specialists, and hopefully with their knowledge and experience, we can metaphorically and perhaps in realistic terms help clear the air. What I'm going to do is introduce each speaker as we go along. Our first speaker today is Marion Wichmann-Fiebig. She's head of Luft, the air department of the Umweltbundesamt, which is Germany's federal environment agency. She studied meteorology in Bonn. She had spells working in the emission fields both in North Rhine-Westphalia in western Germany and in the EU, where she was involved in drafting and negotiating EU air quality directives. Since 2003, she's been at the Umweltbundesamt, the Federal Environment Agency, and her responsibilities there include carrying out and standardizing air quality measurement and acting on the results in line with EU rules and international conventions. So without any further ado, Frau Wichmann-Fiebig, bitte schön.